everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. This is a show where we talk about movies, comic books, TV, sci-fi, fantasy. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and once again, I am flying solo. Going to talk a few premieres and a couple TV seasons going on right now. Didn't really have anything who would come with me and talk, so it's just going to be me for a little while talking to you about some current stuff that's going on. I'm going to run through season 1 of Luke Cage. I'm going to go through the Flash and Arrow season premieres as well, and then maybe a few little tidbits here just to whet your appetite, guys. So it's going to be me, so buckle in. Just to let you know, if you have not watched season 1 of Luke Cage or finished season 1 of Luke Cage, I encourage you to do so. It was pretty damn good. And then also, if you haven't watched the Flash or Arrow season premiere, I encourage you to do that as well, because I am not going to hold anything, guys, back. So there's your warning. So just to start off, New York Comic Con is this weekend. It's the second biggest Comic Con next to San Diego. I'm expecting a lot of news to come out this weekend. So on next week's show, we will be covering that. It felt like kind of a slow news week until last night, Thursday night, and then stuff really started to come out, which makes sense because I feel like everybody's holding back for Comic-Con. I think today and the next couple of days we're going to get a lot of stuff. We've already gotten a couple of Power Rangers new posters that dropped, as well as some footage that's supposed to come out too, so we'll probably see that. Hopefully we'll get maybe a trailer for that. I've been waiting on a trailer to see how that goes. Some Voltron stuff I know is coming out. They did a Season 2 trailer that was released online earlier this week, so I want to talk about that next week as well as a few other things too. But one thing I want to start off with, as you know or may not know, the name of this podcast is an X-Men reference. I'm a big X-Men fan, and I just got done watching the X-Men Apocalypse with director commentary. That's Bryan Singer and screenplay writer Simon Kinberg sitting down and doing the commentary for the movie. I love commentary, especially the director's commentaries for movies. It's one of my things. A lot of people don't really like them. They'll go in and they'll just put them in there. But me, I'm a big fan of them. Now, there was some comments made a few weeks ago or even a month or so ago about Mr. Sinister, because there was reference to Mr. Sinister at the end of X-Men Apocalypse, that he would possibly be in the new Wolverine film, which I'll get to in a minute. But there was something about how when Bryan Singer and Simon Kinberg did the commentary for it, they mentioned that, kind of let the bag slip, that he was going to be in the Wolverine film. I didn't hear that. The stuff they said that they were supposed to say, I didn't hear that. I heard something completely different, which has got me excited about saying it and telling this to you people, okay? So when they got to the tag, as they call it, or the after credit scene, and if you haven't seen X-Men Apocalypse, of course, spoiler, but you go at the Weapon X facility, and someone comes in to take Wolverine's blood. The case closes, and it's X Corp, which is a reference to Mr. Sinister. What was interesting at the beginning of that scene was that Bryan Singer was talking about other scenes he might want to do. And he was talking about how instead of tagging Mr. Sinister, he wanted to do a tag for the next Deadpool film, and he wanted to include a character that was going to be in the next Deadpool film, but then he realized that he couldn't do it because the look of what they were going to do in Deadpool 2 wouldn't fit with what they were going to do at the end of this film or for this tag here. And my mind immediately went to Cable. Okay, because let's remember, at the end of the tag for Deadpool, the after credit scene for Deadpool, he said Cable was going to be in the next one. I thought Mr. Sinister, he has a tie to Cable as well. He pretty much created him, as well as Apocalypse. Cable has a tie to as well. So how cool would it have been if at the end, the tag for X-Men Apocalypse wasn't Sinister, but maybe you see like the wrecked Cairo or whatever, you know, where the X-Men just had their battle with Apocalypse, and all of a sudden you see like a jump and Cable shows up, like mentions something about Apocalypse because, you know, he's been fighting Apocalypse his whole life, and then you cut to black. Oh man, I mean, as cool as the SX Corp scene was, I would have lost my mind there, but I'm pretty sure that's this is just pure speculation as to what Bryan Singer was talking about, and that's just kind of my guess. And when I had that thought in my head, it got me really excited. But of course, we didn't see it. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with Cable in the upcoming movies. I'm hoping again that we're going to get a little taste of him if Mr. Sinister is in the next Wolverine film, and it takes place in the future. Kind of got that Old Man Logan vibe to it. That we do see maybe a Cable as well. I think hopefully they can introduce him in there, and then of course maybe you can go back in time to present day. I don't know. These are just ideas that I have that I might do or would do if I was in charge. Which, by the way, Bryan Singer, give me a call, man. I'm there. I got lots of ideas for X-Men. I mean, I was a fan of X-Men Apocalypse. I mean, as a film, I can see why people had issues with it. But for me, as a longtime X-Men fan, you saw things in this film that they do in the comics that they've never done in the movies, such as a psychic battle and Magneto, turning over the magnetic poles of the Earth, and Genix doing, full freak out Phoenix mode. It was, that last scene was, I was geeking out, and you should see me. My wife can contest to this, where I'm sitting there and I'm just like hardcore geeking out. It was so awesome, and I really want to see where they go with the next X-Men films. I know this one didn't make as much money as they wanted to, didn't get as good a rating as they wanted to, but for me as an X-Men fan, as a film, I understand it might not be the best, but as an X-Men film, I think it is the best X-Men film. If you want to talk more about that, hit me up. I'll be glad to expand on it. But speaking about X-Men, just real quick, I'm going to talk about this next week, but they did release a new poster for the third Wolverine film that comes out next year, and they came out with a poster and the title. It's going to be titled Logan. That's it. The Wolverine 3 film is going to be titled Logan, and you see it's a picture with his hand and then a little child hands holding it. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, and again, I'll expand more on this next week as well, is I have asked me ever since, who's that kid's hand? Who do you think that kid's hand is? And I have several theories of what they're going with. One of which is that they say that this next Wolverine film does have a bit of Old Man Logan feel to it, or it's loosely based on Old Man Logan. I mean, considering how they use the term loosely based, like Days of Future Past was loosely based on the comic, which is not quite saying much. But I could be his kid, because in the Old Man Logan storyline, Logan does have 2 children. And, that could be where he ends up. He has a family, he has a child, perhaps, and that's who he's fighting to protect, maybe. I don't know. The other thing, and people, who are fans are possibly alluding to, would be X-23, which is the teenage version clone of Wolverine. And that's another thing I thought about at the end of X-Men Apocalypse, when the Essex Corporation took a vial of his blood. I immediately thought of cloning X-23 or making X-23. So there's several ways we can go with this. I'm of the theory now that I would love for them, instead of getting someone else to replace Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, let's bring in X-23. Let's get the female Wolverine in there. Not worry about trying to find someone who's going to be just as good, if not better, than Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, because I think we all know it's kind of a hard task. So let's switch it up. Let's make a Wolverine-esque character as X-23, and that way we don't have to worry about replacing Hugh Jackman. All right? And in the current comics right now, Wolverine's dead, and X-23, whose name is Laura, is the current Wolverine as well. And it's pretty decent, actually. I read a couple storylines. It's actually pretty decent comics, so I will be fully about just forgetting the character of Wolverine for a little while and focusing on X-23, a.k.a. Laura, a.k.a. the all-new Wolverine. Okay, so that's my little, disclaimer, my little housekeeping things that I've done there as well. Of course, if you haven't watched X-Men Apocalypse, go pick it up, man, especially if you're a fan of the X-Men franchise. It completes the prequel trilogy, as I call it, pretty well. Because you have X-Men, X2, X3, which is the X-Men trilogy, and then you have First Class, Days, Future Past, and Apocalypse, which I think really ties up not only that prequel trilogy, but also all 6 films in general, too. Just go check it out. Again, like I said, as an X-Men fan, I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Okay, so let's move on to the full-on Marvel news, guys. Friday, or last Friday, a week from today, Netflix came out with all 13 episodes of the new Marvel series, Luke Cage. Now, for those of you who don't know, Luke Cage was a side character in one of the previous Marvel Netflix shows, Jessica Jones. They ended up being a romantic love interest. Luke Cage is a character who's been in the comics for quite a long time. His most famous interpretation is when he teams up with Iron Fist. And we got a little announcement as well that Iron Fist has a release date, March 17th, 2017. That's going to be the next Marvel Netflix series we're getting. And I'm personally excited for that because Iron Fist, aka Danny Rand, is one of my favorite Marvel characters. So I'm really excited for that to come out, especially now that we know it's coming out on St. Paddy's Day. St. Patrick's Day, being Irish, is one of my favorite holidays. I always, go out and drink too much and party and have a good time. Now, I went ahead and just requested that day and the day after, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay at home, I'm going to drink, I'll go out with my buddies and have a good St. Paddy's Day night celebration, wake up the next morning and watch some more Iron Fist, and hopefully, instead of, taking me almost a week to finish Luke Cage, I can do and just finish Iron Fist in 2 days, which is what I'm predicting is probably going to happen. But anyway, Netflix's Marvel series have been great. You had Daredevil Season 1 and Season 2, which Season 2, again, I'll contest, one of the best seasons of television I've ever watched. Jessica Jones, I was not looking forward to it, but with Christian Ritter and David Tennant at the helm of that, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And now we move on to Luke Cage, of course, the third series that Marvel and Netflix is giving us. Of course, next year in the fall, we're going to get a combination of all four series: Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist. They're going to come together to form the Defenders, kind of like the Netflix version of the Avengers. You had the first individual films, and then they came together in the Avengers. And that's what I like about the Defenders too, is you have the Avengers who save the world, and the Defenders, who are a little less powerful, are just saving the neighborhood. They're fighting the street crime and stuff like that. And it's really fun. I'm really looking forward to that. Plus, they just announced that they're starting filming on the Punisher spinoff. John Berthal, who did an amazing job playing Frank Castle in Daredevil Season 2, is getting his own spinoff, and they're starting to work on that. I'm not sure when that's going to come out. I think eventually Netflix is going to have to come out with, instead of 2 Marvel series per year, it's going to be 3, because they've got the Defenders, they've got Jessica Jones Season 2, they've got Daredevil Season 3, they've got Punisher Season 1. I'm sure they'll probably renew Luke Cage for another season. I think eventually they're going to have to come out with 3 seasons per year, one in the spring, one in the fall, and hopefully one in the summer. I think that'd be amazing. I'm all about that. Sounds great to me. So let's move on here. So Luke Cage. Oh, well, to be honest, guys, I like the series. I totally enjoy the series. Definitely like it. As far as where it falls in the seasons of Netflix, Daredevil Season 2, I think, is probably my favorite. I think it's everyone's favorite. I'll probably put Jessica Jones Season 1 after that, because I enjoyed that more than I thought I was. And for me, it's a tie between Daredevil Season 1 and this for the number 3 and 4 spot. Mainly because I'm not a big Luke Cage fan. I like the character. I was first introduced to the character when Brian Michael Bendis started the New Avengers as well. Some of my favorite Luke Cage moments come from the New Avengers. It's really how I know him. When I knew him, he was already, been married to Jessica Jones. They have a kid. So again, I knew him after he was Power Man, those classic 70s and 80s team-ups with Iron Fist, which, by the way, the Power Man and Iron Fist current comic book series that is going on right now is actually pretty good. So if you want to check out some good stuff, that's a good place to start. You really get a sense of their friendship and their relationship, and a good place to go there. Now, when I do reviews of movies or TV series or whatever, to make sure I try to get everything, what I do is I'll bring up the IMDb page and just the cast list and go through kind of character by character how I thought they did. So it's probably what I decided to do with this and The Flash and Arrow, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. But overall, again, my overall thoughts on Luke Cage, I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was, during the production of this season, we kept hearing things about it, and that it was going to be a love letter to Harlem, and it totally was. It was about Harlem. It was about Black history in America. It really had, and the producer have already said this, that, when he puts on that hoodie, they're referencing Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm not going to go too much into that because I'm a white Caucasian male, okay? I can't, first off, get too political because I don't know what people are going to say. And secondly, I have no perspective on it, okay? I cannot comment on it, so I'm not going to go. But I like how they're tying events that are going on right now in the world into this series and making it relevant. It's really interesting. I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. So for that was really cool to see. Again, I don't want to go too much into it because I feel like I don't have a good perspective to have a good concept of it. I know the soundtrack is a big hit. They just said they're going to release it on vinyl, I believe. And of course, you can go on to Spotify and listen to the soundtrack, which I heard some people did that when Netflix crashed on Saturday. Apparently, for about 2 hours, Netflix crashed, and people are saying it was because so many people were viewing Luke Cage. Now, Netflix has not confirmed this. They do say at that time there were a lot of people viewing Luke Cage, which could have contributed to it, but they're not saying, hey, Luke Cage crashed the internet. But that's what they're saying. Anyway, Luke Cage, let's just start with the star, Michael Coulter. When I first saw him in Jessica Jones, I liked him. The first couple of episodes was good. As the series went on, though, I liked him less and less. He wasn't very emotional, I guess, or expressive, and maybe that's the character, I don't know. There were some times in this season, Luke Cage season 1, where I really thought he did a good job, but the character, I don't know, the expressiveness of it is really what lost it for me. I'm not saying, I think he did a good job. Did he do a great job? No, but he held it together enough to where I believed him. He was fine. Okay, great. I think he's probably my least favorite Defender at this point. I know I'm going to like Iron Fist because he's already a character I care about. Daredevil, again, one of my favorite Marvel characters. Going into the Netflix series, I thought I was going to like Jessica Jones the least. But then I saw Jessica Jones and I was like, man, I think I'm going to like Luke Cage the least. And that's why it is that tie between Daredevil season 1 and Luke Cage for me as far as which Netflix Marvel series or season that I like the least. But again, that's saying something considering that I really like this and it's one of my least favorite. It gives you a bit of a nugget of how highly I regard the Netflix Marvel series so far. But with Michael Coulter at the head, yeah, he did a good job. Did he do a great job? No, but he did good enough that, especially with the surrounding cast, if they weren't such, shining stars, maybe that's what brought his performance down in my eyes a little bit. But in any event, fine job, good job. We'll see what he does when he comes to the Defenders. I did like how we got to see his past. They had that episode where, of course, they did the callback to his old Power Man outfit with the yellow shirts and the steel bracelets and on his head and all that jazz. That was funny, of course. But I liked the story. Yeah, I liked his story. I don't think did we ever really get the reason he was in jail? I know he was a cop. They said he was betrayed or he was set up, but I don't think did they ever really see why he was set up. That's one thing. Okay, they had the flashback episode where they kind of show how he got his powers, and I get that. And then he gets out, but I want to see how he got from an escapee with powers to winding up in that bar in Hell's Kitchen. That's when I will see. I know they talked about how his girl, I can't remember what her name was. Hold on, I'm going to look this up here. The doctor that helped him out. It's in here somewhere, right? Okay, it's not in here somewhere. Anyway, the doctor, his girlfriend, wife, whoever helped him out, that I want to see how, what happened to her and all that, how that all transpired, really. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get that in season 2. We only got a little glimpse of it, but in any event, end of season 1, we see Luke Cage finally fessing up and being taken away from prison. I can imagine we're going to see him escape from prison. He's probably going to be there till Defenders, and then that's where we're going to see him break out, which I'm fine with. You know, he's there, so we'll just have to wait till Defenders comes out to see what really happens to him and how he gets out and why he gets out and all that. All right, so the next, I guess, most important character of the series was Misty Knight, played by Simone Mystique. I'm not familiar with the actress, but she was in all 13 episodes. Her and Michael Coulter were the only actor and actress who were in all 13 episodes. So I can safe to say you got your male and your female lead right there. It was weird at the beginning. The character of Misty Knight I'm really excited about because I know that she has a history with Iron Fist, and I know she goes on to help form the Heroes for Hire along with Luke Cage. Now, when they started out in that first episode, it looked like she was going to be a love interest for Luke Cage, which I wasn't sure about because I know she is a love interest for Iron Fist. I know in the upcoming Netflix series, she is listed on the cast for a couple episodes, but not the full episodes. I know they probably won't start off right away with Danny and Misty, but I hope they eventually grow into that. And one thing that really got me excited about that was in that last shot of her, she looked fully like she does in the comic books. The red outfit, the afro. I mean, she was full on Misty Knight at the end there. For those of you who don't know the character, she was a former police officer who ended up forming her own PI agency along with Colleen Wing, which Colleen Wing, if you saw the end of Claire's character at the end of the series, she pulls a phone number from a flyer for self-defense, and the name on it is Colleen Wing. So she's going to be a dominant character in Iron Fist. I'm excited to see that. Those last couple scenes of the montage of how all the characters end at the end of Luke Cage was probably my favorite part of, you know, knowing where the characters go and what's going to come. That was the most exciting for me. It's kind of like also in Daredevil Season 2 is not only with Elektra, but with the Hand, okay? Because Iron Fist, I know, I'm tired all about the Iron Fist, guys, sorry. But the Hand is also a big enemy for Iron Fist as well. So to see that kind of start off in Daredevil Season 2 and knowing that's probably going to be a factor in Iron Fist coming up, that was pretty exciting for me to see. As for the character of Misty Knight, first episode, she gets it on with Luke Cage. Damn, okay? Damn, that girl's hot. All right, I got that away, but the character, she seemed very wishy-washy. She went through quite the character arc. I think if anybody in the series went through the most character arc, sure, Luke went through his arc, but I think Misty went through the most character arc, being a police officer who's, you know, very into the system, believes in the system, and by the end, of course, she questions her role and how she feels that it doesn't really do anything. There was that episode where, you know, she kind of lost it and she's being grilled about her past and why she grabbed Claire and all this other stuff. It was very interesting. It was off-putting, really, because you saw her throughout the entire season up to that point be very controlled, and of course maybe that was her breaking point, but then the rest of the time she seemed very controlled as well. She didn't trust Luke, which, you know, I get maybe, but at the same time, as an audience member, I didn't understand it. I thought it was kind of silly that she didn't trust as Luke as much as she did until the very end. But, you know, that's just the character. Again, I'm excited to see where the character goes, especially after that last shot of her. I hope she shows up in Iron Fist more than I think she does, because I'll be really anxious to see her relationships go on. I want to see, you know, I want to see Heroes for Hire. That's what I want to see. Okay, I want to see Iron Fist. I want to see Danny and Luke. I want to see Danny and Luke. Those guys have a great relationship. I love the rapport. Again, go back and read the current Power Man and Iron Fist comic series. They have a great rapport between them, and I would rather see just those two than the entire Defenders come together. But that's just me. I can see how the Defenders is going to be good, but we'll just have to wait and see. That again, I can't wait to see a trailer for that. Hopefully, when Iron Fist comes out, we'll see more stuff about Defenders, which I imagine we will, because that's what they're doing now. Now that Luke Cage has come out, you're seeing all the promotional stuff for Iron Fist, which is the next Netflix series. So I imagine same thing when we get to Iron Fist. We're going to start to see more stuff with Defenders. Give me a giant cast picture of like all four heroes next to each other. That's going to be badass. That's going to be like when you first saw Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America together. That was an awesome picture. I remember when I saw that for the first time. Okay, moving along with the cast, we have Shades. Hey, Shades, played by Theo Rossi. I wasn't sure about this character to start off with. I thought he was very much a one-note character to start off, but then as the season went on, he progressed more. He seemed like the most level-headed of all the bad guys. He seemed like he knew what he was doing. I thought he was cool. I mean, I really liked how he, carried himself by the end of the season. I thought he did really well, and I'm more excited to see where the character goes. The next character, Maria Dillard, played by Alfre Woodard, is the one I had in question, honestly, because Alfre Woodard played the grief-stricken mother in Captain America Civil War, and as you know, the Netflix series takes place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They reference other, people as far as Hulk and Thor and Captain America and all that in these series as well. Just briefly, I like that they're able to keep them separate. You can watch the Netflix series and not need to know every single Marvel Cinematic movie. That's a nice thing about it. It's much more small scale. It's really cool. But I was curious if this is going to be the same character. They made no reference to this being the same character, which kind of bugged me, honestly. Either somebody screwed up and didn't realize that, they're casting the same actors for two roles in the same universe, which doesn't seem really right, or they just didn't reference it at all. I'd like to think that it'd be the same person. In Captain America Civil War, they said that her character was in work for the State Department. And, to go from that to being anti-superhero and, being on the city council and all that, it would be a logical transition for the character. But again, they made no reference to it at all, which kind of bugged me. But Alfre Woodard, she always gives a good performance. I didn't love her in this, but I think it's the character. I felt like the character was a little lost, really. They had so much to do. The series in general, I felt like you have 13 episodes. And first off, I hate shows now, like Arrow and Flash, that are 22 episodes, because you have so many, dead episodes that really are just unnecessary. I wish they would just, scale it back now to, maybe 15 or so. That'd be a good number. But even in this, 13 I felt was, you could easily condense this to about 11 episodes, I think. And it would have been a little tighter, taking away some of those slower paced moments. And the characters were a little more wishy-washy, I think, throughout it, because you had to spread the storylines out a little bit. And I don't think that was really necessary. But anyway, Alfre Woodard, great actress. She did a good job in this. But the character, like I said, I just didn't love. It wasn't my best, but we'll see what they do with her from now on. I think we're going to see her again. Not only Luke Cage, but I can see her coming up in Defenders or even Iron Fist. Really, I can see that happening. Also, I'm not sure what's going on with her in Shades. I mean, Alfre Woodard's like 50 something maybe, if that. And Shades looks like he's in his 30s. So little cradle robbing there. I mean, they two developed a good relationship. I like the relationship in the season. Going romantic with it seemed a little off, in my opinion. We'll see where they go with it, though. All right, so it's time to talk about the glue of the Netflix series, guys. I'm talking about Rosario Dawson. I totally ruined that. Rosario Dawson as Claire Temple. Now, she is the Agent Coulson, I guess you could say, of the Netflix series. In those first couple Marvel movies, you had Agent Coulson in most all of them, or I guess you could say, I don't know. I mean, you had Agent Coulson. You also had Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury. Anyway, there's a character or a couple characters who are the glue that kind of ties everything together, and so far Claire has been that character. On a side note, let me just do a little disclaimer and say I think of her immediately when in this season when she started to develop romantic feelings for Luke Cage. I immediately thought of Lois Lane from Smallville, okay? Because in Smallville, Erica Durance played Lois Lane, and she hooked up with Aquaman, Green Arrow, and Superman in that series, okay? She had herself a couple of superhero relationships. In this Netflix series, Rosario Dawson, as Claire, has hooked up with Daredevil and Luke Cage. So she's one of those characters who just likes the superheroes, I guess. I don't think she's going to hook up with Iron Fist, but I wouldn't put it past them. No, actually, I wouldn't put it past them, considering it seems like her and Luke Cage are on solid ground. But as we know in the comic books, Luke ends up with Jessica Jones. Doesn't mean they have to do that in Netflix series. It could be something that's way down the line as well too. We'll just have to wait and see. But Rosario Dawson as Claire Temple, I don't know what it is about Rosario Dawson, but she is just awesome. I mean, maybe it's her strength, her attitude or something, but every time she's on screen, she's just amazing, and I think she's super hot too. But yeah, I mean, I really no real complaints about her performance at all. If anything, I think she helped elevate it a little bit. It's one of those things, like I said, Michael Colter did a fine job, but the fact that he was surrounded by, Alfre Woodard and Rosario Dawson and what's the guy who played Cottonmouth, Marshall Ali, I forget his name, but the fact that he's surrounded by these really good actors and actresses, kind of sees the weakness in his performance. So no fault to him. Like I said, he did a fine job, but anyway, Rosario Dawson, awesome. She's not on the cast list for Iron Fist, though, from what I saw. And I'm not sure. I hope she's in it at least a little bit, because as we know, she's actually, like I said, she pulled that paper to go get martial arts training or self-defense classes from Colleen Wigg, who is going to be in Iron Fist. So maybe we'll see Claire taking a class. Maybe she just has a brief cameo. But I have in full faith that she is going to be the one to bring everyone together, where something is going to happen and Claire has to say, hey, I know this guy, I know this guy, I know this guy. You guys have to come together to fight the Hand or whoever. And that brings me to the references, too, of there are several times, especially those last couple episodes, where she kept telling Luke, I know a good lawyer, I know a good lawyer, I know a good lawyer. And we didn't see the good lawyer, okay? If I would have seen just one little cameo by Charlie Cox, I would have been so ecstatic, because she kept referencing her lawyer friend. And I'm just like, just show Charlie Cox, for God's sakes. Let me have that little geek out moment, please. But they didn't show it, so go figure. Okay, all right, enough about Claire. Moving on from there, let's go to, let's go to Marshall Ali. I know I'm saying his name wrong. I'm sorry. Anyway, the guy who played Cottonmouth. Cottonmouth was a character who, he seemed kind of one note, but I love the flashbacks we got with him. That's a great thing about having a series or a miniseries versus a 2-hour movie, is you can go more into the characters. You can do what made them, become a criminal, what made them become a hero, get more in depth, and it helps you care about the character a little bit more. So that's what we got with Cottonmouth. He wasn't as menacing as I think he should have been. That's when I liked when Diamondback came in, because he was more menacing. He was a guy, Cottonmouth, he was going to do stuff for a reason. He wasn't just going to jump the gun. He was a little bit trigger shy. Diamondback was just batshit crazy, and you had no idea what he was going to do. And that's the first couple episodes where they brought him in. I thought that was great. He was a complete opposite of what Cottonmouth was. It was that flip with the two villains, and I thought that was great. I totally enjoyed Diamondback coming in. Cottonmouth, great character, but I was glad to see he ended, because after those first couple episodes, I didn't see where they could go. I don't see what kind of threat he could have posed to Luke, as aside from just knowing his secret. That was just like, really, that's what you got on him? That's what we're going to string out for, another 7 episodes or so? But they didn't do that, okay? He served his purpose, killed by his own cousin, and of course that made her story more interesting and progressed the other characters farther along, and that was great. I like how they did that. While we're on the subject, Eric LaRae Harvey as Diamondback, that was the interesting one. And it just goes to show you, everybody's got daddy issues, especially superheroes and supervillains, okay? Look at, Loki or Thor. Look at Daredevil. Look at Batman. Look at Superman. Look at any of the great heroes or great villains. They all have daddy issues. That's just how it goes. Even Wonder Woman, she's got daddy issues because her father is Zeus, or she didn't know who her father was, and then she found out it was Zeus, and all that jazz. It all comes down to the daddy issues, okay? If you got daddy issues, maybe you're in a line to be a superhero or a supervillain. Maybe, all right? But Diamondback, he was an interesting character when we started off. He was totally opposite of Cottonmouth, like I said, so you never knew what he was going to do. Then again, you got into more of the history between him and Luke, and it was all just interesting, and he got a little crazy at the end. Obviously, you saw that he was so jealous of Luke his whole life, mainly because their father chose, his Luke's mom and him over Diamondback and his mother. And it was just, it was motivation, really. And then he created that power suit to try to fight Luke because, again, he had that hatred for Luke. He couldn't fight his father, so he had to do the next best thing and fight Luke. And that's what it came down to, daddy issues. So to me, that kind of covers the main cast of Luke Cage, or the more prominent players in Luke Cage. There's other minor characters that I think did a really good job. You have Misty Knight's boss, the Inspector Ridley, played by Karen Pittman. She's a flip-floppy character. Of course, I really didn't like her at the beginning, but then, of course, as she went on, you liked the character a little more. You had Frank Whaley as Misty's partner, Detective Scarf. Scarf, I think that's how you say his name. Anyway, of course, you knew from the moment, at least I did, that he was going to be dirty. He just looked like he was dirty. But he did, of course, Frank Whaley, a good actor. He did his job very well. Then you had, what's the guy's name? What's the actor's name? He's on the show This Is Us now. Oh, it's Bobby. That was the character's name. Ron Cephas Jones. I thought the character of Pops was going to last longer than he did. But of course, his death in episode 2 was kind of a catalyst to set off everything else, which I totally understand. And then that mentor character, that character Luke could talk to, wasn't Pops, it was Bobby. So that was interesting. I remember when I saw him in that first episode, I thought, oh, he was in this new show, This Is Us, which I've checked out a little bit. And I thought it was interesting he was in the show. When he went on to be a more prominent character in the show, I liked him. I thought that was nice. He's a good actor, so I was glad to see him in there. And it's just a few other things. I'm not really seeing anybody else on the IMDb page that I think would be too much of note to talk about or get into. But overall, okay, Luke Cage, I liked the series. It was a great season. I thought it was definitely the most social relevant series that Marvel Entertainment has done, commenting on the current climate of Black Lives Matter and the relationship between, cops and the African American community and all that stuff. Again, I'm not going to try to comment on that because I feel like I have no good point of view or no sense of what's going on there to really comment on. But I think it does speak to something on that subject matter, I believe. It was a good series. Like I said, the fact that I liked it, but yet it's one of my least favorite of the Marvel Netflix series so far, goes to tell you just how good I think they're doing with the Netflix series. Just Marvel Entertainment in general. I mean, I like what they're doing with the movies, but I like that this is all separate, I said it before, I'll say it again. The Avengers save the world, the Defenders save the neighborhood, as long as they keep it small. And there's been rumors that they want to bring some of the Netflix characters into the movies. Honestly, I don't see a need. I really don't see a need because next up you got the Avengers facing off against Thanos, okay? Yeah, Luke Cage is strong and has unbreakable skin, but guess what? He's nowhere near what Thor or the Hulk is. And yeah, Daredevil is a good fighter, but Captain America could whoop him, okay? I think it'd be more interesting to bring some of the more human characters like Hawkeye and Black Widow into the Netflix series just as guest appearances. Even give Hawkeye, I remember people were talking, give Hawkeye his own series because he has his own comic book where he, is the sole basis of it. I think it's by Matt Fraction, where it's his perspective of dealing with everyday stuff, being this human who, again, deals with gods, really, is what it is. And they touched on that a little bit in Avengers Age of Ultron, too, the conversation between him and his wife. But let's not forget as well that Black Widow and Daredevil actually had a romantic relationship in the comic books as well. So to bring Scarlett Johansson, you probably have to pay her quite a bit, but I think that would be interesting to see her just kind of at least guest appear on the next season of Daredevil. Just wishful thinking on my part. But Luke Cage, great. If you haven't checked it out, I spoiled everything for you, so go back and you can judge for yourself. Also, send me your comments, guys, and let me know what you thought as well, too, about Luke Cage, and tell me how much you're looking forward to Iron Fist. I said, I like the character of Iron Fist, so I am so looking forward to what comes next, especially given the quality of shows that Marvel has done with us on Netflix so far. I think they're really going to knock Iron Fist out of the park, at least in my eyes, and I cannot wait for the Defenders and the Punisher and everything to come. I just never thought, growing up as, a boy reading comic books, that we'd never get to the point where we would have these interconnected universes and where the movies and the TVs would feel like I'm reading comics, where characters pop in and out of each other's titles and stuff like that. So it's really awesome. Of course, that'll lead me into my next subject, which is The Flash and Arrow. But just a little bit, going back to another Marvel series, you have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know they brought in Ghost Rider, they brought in Humans. Okay, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I watched the first couple episodes, and I didn't like it. And I know since then they tried gimmicks to try to get people to watch the show with the Inhumans and now Ghost Rider, which I heard Ghost Rider is good. I still have no interest to watch the show. To me, when they said they were going to bring Ghost Rider into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I was like, why? Ghost Rider is not the character that you bring into an ABC show. He's the character you bring into a Netflix show. And that would have been the perfect place for him, I think. I don't think they're ever going to do that transition. Now that they've brought him into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't think we're going to see him in Netflix, although I think he'd be awesome there. Just like I never think... there's rumors they want to take Punisher and put him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's a rated R character going to a PG-13 to PG world, okay? You can't cross him over. Same thing with Ghost Rider. They stuck Ghost Rider in his PG to PG-13 world. Switching over to rated R, it'll change the character, and that wouldn't fit, and it looked sloppy, really. It really would look just like a gimmick, and I'd rather them stay true to what the characters they've created rather than flip back and forth just to get some ratings. Alright guys, so that's it for that. Moving over. So this week we had the season premieres of Flash and Arrow. Now the other DC shows, such as Legends Tomorrow and Supergirl, premiere next week. So then on the CW you got Supergirl on Mondays, Flash on Tuesdays, Arrows on Wednesdays, and Legends Tomorrow on Thursdays. They're calling it DC TV is the new phrase for it. Of course, those aren't the only DC shows on. We're all forgetting about that little show that I don't think anybody watches on Fox called Gotham. Now, John Schnepp of Collider Heroes had a great comment on Gotham and also the CW shows as well. He was talking, or they were talking on Collider Heroes about how they're bringing in Superman and maybe even possibly testing the waters for a Superman spin-off TV show. I really don't think they're doing that, but again, I like what they're doing. They're taking these characters and intermingling them between shows. I'm not a fan of Legends Tomorrow. I watched most of the episodes of season 1, but I will start off watching season 2 because again, with all 4 of these shows now, the CW I think have realized what they've got. And Stephen Amell even said on social media, he commented about how he's doing Arrow one night, and then he's doing Legends Tomorrow another night, and then he's doing Flash another night. I think these characters, much like in the comic books and the DC universe, they're going to hop shows. And that's why I'm interested to see what Greg Berlanti and his team have come up with for these other shows, because I want to see Supergirl pop up in Arrow. I want to see White Canary pop up in Flash. I want to see him cross-pollinate. I don't know if that's the right word or not. But, again, the more they cross, the more it feels like a comic book. The more I get giddy like a little boy who's, flipping through his Superman comic and sees Batman pop up. Speaking of Batman, getting back to my point, was with Gotham. Okay, somebody tell me, who watches Gotham? I don't know a single person that watches this show. Again, it's like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I started out trying to give it a chance, could not get into it. I've watched 1 or 2 episodes since then. Still don't like it. Who watches this show? Okay, because John Schnepp had an interesting theory, was while they are bringing Superman into the DC TV, or the Arrowverse, as I call it, it'd be interesting to bring Batman into it. Gotham is not the show it should be. While I like that it's focusing on Jim Gordon, that's great. Where they're messing up is bringing in all the Batman villains and keeping a young Bruce Wayne on the show. That's where they're messing up, okay? They're bringing all these Batman villains as adults to where when Bruce Wayne grows up, he's going to be fighting a bunch of elderly villains, so no wonder he takes them down so easily. But also with Bruce Wayne, He's staying in Gotham. He seems like he's almost normal. No, no, no. At this point, Bruce Wayne should be traumatically, in shock still. And he should be out, traveling, trying to, spend his life learning to be Batman or something. Not what they've got him doing in the show. That's where the problem is. Their misuse of Bruce Wayne and the Batman Rogues Gallery is just, it's one of the problems of the show, but seriously, who watches Gotham? If you watch Gotham, tell me what you like about it, because I don't understand that. I don't understand Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. These shows, to me, they're just not getting it. The CW shows, they get it, okay? They go all in because with them, you had Arrow that started it all off, and it was very much, let's be honest, it's Batman. It's Green Arrow, but it's Batman style. It was very grounded. There wasn't a lot of, fantasy to it. And then you brought in the Flash. You brought in metahumans, okay? Totally get that. Then you bring in DC's Legends Tomorrow. And now you have time travel in it. So you see there's this buildup for going from reality to a little bit weird to a little bit weird. And now we're getting Supergirl, which is aliens, okay? They're bringing aliens into this world. And like I said, they gradually worked up to that, fantasy. They went a little weird so that, you accepted it just, okay, you're like, okay, we're in reality, okay, metahumans, I'll accept metahumans. What? Okay, next step up is time travel. Okay, well, we got metahumans, so I'll accept that a little bit further. And now you have aliens. We're like, okay, so they've gradually worked their way up to that fantasy ladder, I guess you could say. And I think it's awesome that now I want to see Arrow in Supergirl. I want to see him interact with Supergirl and Martian Manhunter, and to see this guy who is just a man interact with superpowered aliens. I think it'd be really cool, and again, be a good look at, the DC universe. There was a really good episode of the Justice League Unlimited animated series where Green Arrow was a street-level crime fighter who went to the Watchtower and saw these superpowered beings. And Batman was like, hey, you're a normal guy. I want you to help keep these, superheroes down to earth. Speaking of aliens, we also learned that the 4-part crossover between all 4 series is going to feature Dominators, I believe it is. I almost said Denominators, but the Dominators, an alien race that sees Earth developing all these super-powered beings as a threat and decide to wipe them out before they become too powerful. Now, they have ties to Martian Manhunter, so I think it's going to be a good character moment for Martian Manhunter. But again, I want to see that 4-part crossover. I want to see Supergirl, Martian Manhunter, Green Arrow, The Flash, Firestorm, Atom, White Canary. I want to see all of them in a room. That'd be so awesome. Which, by the way, speaking of awesome, if you haven't checked out the Superhero Fight Club 2.0 that came out a few days ago, I think it was before The Flash. Check that out. It's pretty cool. It's pretty much bringing Supergirl into their fight club, so to speak. And it's pretty cool. So check that out as well. But yeah, the way they got the shows going, I'm really excited to see what they're going to do and how they're going to cross all 4 of these episodes, especially with that crossover episode it's going to take place during Arrow's 100th episode. And they're bringing back Deathstroke, they're bringing back Moira Queen, bringing back some of the old favorites, characters you thought were gone. So I'm, again, very interested to see how that's going to go. But getting into the season premieres, Tuesday we had Season 3 of The Flash premiere. So for those of you who did not watch Season 2, first off, what are you doing listening to this? Because I'm about to go spoilers. Season 2 saw Barry's dad die, so he went back in time to save his mom, which is the exact opposite of what he did at the end of Season 1. And he came to a world that actually he really enjoyed, okay? Both his parents were alive, he was still CSI, and he was going on a date with Iris, or finally asked the courage to ask Iris out. So it's called Flashpoint. So opposite of what the comic was, the original Flashpoint comic was Barry went back in time to save his mom, and he comes back to a present that is really messed up, where Superman is a science experiment, where Bruce Wayne is dead and his dad is a psycho Batman, where Aquaman and Wonder Woman are destroying the world with their war, and it's overall a bad place. Now, one thing I said last week, I think it was was this place didn't seem like bad. This alternate reality didn't seem like a bad place. It seemed like everything was somewhat normal, and why would Barry want to go back and change it? Well, along with what happened in the comic, Barry's forgetting his old life. We know that much. And so that, I guess, tends a problem as well. And then we have, what's his name? Kid Flash. Wally. Wally is the Flash of this new reality. And Barry exposes himself to try to stop oh god, what's the name of the villain? He looked ridiculous. I don't know who that villain was. The speedster villain they were facing, but he looked just totally ridiculous. He's a knockoff of the Weather Wizard. I get that. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the new villains this season, but this guy looked kind of ridiculous. But anyway, so then he has to gather his Team Flash. He has to get Cisco, who is a uptight billionaire, and then you have to get Caitlin, who is kind of an uptight ophthalmologist as well. And he has to get them back together to try to figure out how to stop this villain, but also how to set back reality. Because what happened was, I guess, Wally got injured, and he wasn't healing like he was supposed to. So then that was kind of Barry's last straw to be like, okay, I got to go back and set reality back how it was. I don't get that. I mean, I'm sorry. In the original Flashpoint, the world was literally going to end. And this Barry wants to change the world back just because Wally gets injured? Why? I don't get that, okay? Everything was fine, okay? But in any event, he goes back and changes reality anyway, or what he thinks he changes reality. And much like in the comic books, where Barry goes back to try to set things straight, we come to find out that really he doesn't get everything perfect. Not everything goes exactly how it was. At the end of the episode, he goes and hugs Wally and sees Joe, and then mentions Iris, and Joe flips out on him. So we don't know what that's all about. Obviously, something happened to where when Barry reset the timeline, he did something to where Iris and Joe, maybe even Wally, aren't on speaking terms, or maybe she's dead. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll figure it out next episode, because in the preview for this season or next episode, some interesting things look like they're going to happen. I think Barry is going to reap the repercussions of his decision. You go back and realize that everything's not right. He's going to come clean, I think. He's going to come clean with everyone of what he did, and everyone's going to be mad at him for the consequences of being so selfish to going back and saving his mother and not thinking about the repercussions of what it did or could do, is pretty much. And then, of course, the coolest scene, I think everyone will agree, is Caitlin hand starting to freeze, which of course is signifying that she may indeed become Killer Frost. So there's that. One of the good things about the episode that I really enjoyed as well, first off, was Barry and Iris's foreplay, I guess you could call it. Iris started as a character I really wasn't a big fan of. I mean, much like Laurel in season 1 of Arrow, Iris in season 1 of Flash was just kind of useful. She was just a love interest that Barry had to save, and it was kind of ridiculous. It was after she learned Barry's secret, much like Laurel learning Oliver's secret, when she actually became a more interesting character and became part of the team. But first off, Candace Patton is hot, so I'll give her that. And, seeing her development, I'm with the character. I want to see Barry and Iris together. I buy their chemistry, her and Grant Gustin. So I want to see that go somewhere, especially since I've danced around it for 2 seasons now. The highlight, I guess, for the episode with me was what they have turned Reverse Flash into. Reverse Flash started out as the main villain of season 1. Now he's become this guy who, it's much like Malcolm Merlyn in Arrow. He has become, in season 1 he was the villain, and now he's like a half enemy, frenemy, whatever you want to call it, that our hero has to trust sometimes to get what needs to be done. So in that instance, you can say it's kind of lame, because they're obviously following same plot points as far as to Arrow and Flash. I mean, you have, again, I was talking about the similarities between Iris and Laurel in season 1 of each of the shows. Then you talk about their villains from season 1, and you can see the similarities in each of them. Even the season 2 villain, if you look at Zoom versus Deathstroke, they're also very similar characters as far as story arcs as well too. So it might be a weakness, but they're still entertaining. So I'll give him a break on that. But anyway, anything else about Flash? Let's see. Let me run down my list here and see what I got. I already talked about that. I'm very interested to see Tom Cavanaugh come back as Harrison Wells. I think he is phenomenal on this show. I love Tom Cavanaugh. I've been a fan of his ever since he did played Zach Braff's brother on Scrubs, and that was awesome. So I'm very interested to see him come back. Carl Valdez as Cisco Ramon, always great. He always does a great job. I think it's awesome. Which I guess there was a little thing on the internet I just saw where, if you notice, okay, on the show The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper, the character Sheldon Cooper, wears superhero shirts, okay? And Cisco Ramon on Flash wears Big Bang t-shirts. I never noticed it before until I saw this thing on the internet that pointed out. It was pretty hilarious, I think. So there's that. But overall, yeah, I mean, Joe, I'm very curious to see what is going on with Joe and Iris, yes. Joe and Iris. I want to see what Barry has changed, because that was the kind of thing when, again, in the comic, Barry went to try to set things right again. Nothing was really exactly how it was. Like, we came back into the New 52, and Lois and Clark were separated. He wasn't with Iris. He was with Patty, which I'm going back and I'm rewatching season 2 of Flash on Netflix because I miss Patty. I do. I miss Patty. And then, gosh, what else? Anything. He changed stuff back in the comic books, so now I want to see what's changed in this reality. I was hoping it would be a more broad change as far as changes in Arrow and maybe Legends of Tomorrow as well. I always thought that he would come back and, Laurel Lance, who died in the last season of Arrow, was actually alive. But as we know, that actress is going to come back anyway in the other shows, so there you go. Excuse me. Anyway, so that's Flash, guys. Overall, a pretty good season 3 premiere. I liked it. I'm just curious to see where they go with that. I want to see Barry kind of, again, get put in his place for those selfish acts, because Barry seems like the type of character that doesn't learn anything, and I really want him to learn something from this experience, from messing with time, and, just for something to have consequences about it. All right, so moving on to the other season premiere, we had Arrow. That's right, and they're in their 5th season now, led by Stephen Amell, who I enjoy. I think he's really what holds the show together for me. Last season, season 4, I was not a fan of. Not a fan of season 4 of Arrow at all. It started to lose its luster towards the end of season 3, and then season 4, almost all of season 4 was just ridiculous for me. There were moments in season 4 that I liked because, and I'm sure you've heard me say this before, Olicity. Oliver and Felicity's relationship they started hinting at in season 2, I think has helped bring the downfall of this show. They got rid of it. There were moments in it that I liked in season 4, like when she got paralyzed. I thought that added a new dimension to their relationship, which I think actually made it interesting for the first time to me. But then she was paralyzed for 2 episodes and then walked again, which I thought not only ruined what was becoming interesting, but also was a slap in face to the disabled community. But that's neither here nor there. Season 4, like I said, not a good season for me. I think a lot of people agree with it, so we're hoping that season 5 puts it back on track. At the end of season 4, Oliver killed Damien Dark, and then Team Arrow kind of disbanded. Diggle went back to the military. Thea retired from being Speedy. So it was just Oliver and Felicity, who were no longer a couple. They're not a couple. They're just still working together. And also Oliver, because the current mayor turned out to be part of the supervillain team and died, they made Oliver mayor. So at the beginning of season 5, we see Oliver kind of going between being the lone hero in Star City and also being the mayor and trying to balance that out. And Thea kind of trying to be the go-between as well, trying to cover for her brother because she knows he's out trying to save the city. And so she's trying to cover for him during the day as mayor as well. Sorry, guys. Give me a sec. Let me take a cup of coffee here. I clear my throat a little bit. All right. So, season 5, Oliver is putting killing back on the menu. I love it. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, yeah, he's a hero because they went to this whole story arc in season 2 where he wasn't going to kill anybody. In season 3, he wasn't going to kill anybody. In season 4, there's so much that's happened to him. Oliver's going back to a more darker place, which I think is where we like him to be. Because in season 5, it very much reminisces the beginning of season 1, where he gets captured by the villain, and then he has to kill the villain in order so they don't tell people his secret. So it's very much a callback to what happened in that series premiere. Now, throughout this entire first episode, we see Oliver kind of in a little bit of denial, as Felicity puts it, that, you know, Thea and Diggle are going to come back into the fold and they're going to be Team Arrow again. And that just doesn't happen. So by the end of the episode, he kind of accepts it and allows Felicity to start to form this new group of vigilantes. And we'll see the training of them in the next episode. Not sure how I feel about that. Personally, I like this episode because it reminded me so much of season 1. Okay, season 1, it was him, it was Felicity, it was Diggle. It was small. It wasn't this, you know, too many people in the Arrow Cave or the Quiver, whatever you want to call it. It was very simple. It was just the focus was on Oliver, and I liked it. And I think when you add in all these characters, the main hero gets lost a little bit. So I would much rather them keep it small, keep him and maybe one or two other people as the actual vigilantes out there doing stuff. But, you know, like I said, they're going to add more people to it. But I really, if it was up to me, it would just be him out there and then maybe a speedy sidekick. Have the brother-sister team doing their thing. Diggle as the backup, and Felicity, of course, guarding them through Overwatch, as they call it. Well, they just call her Watchtower, okay? Get it over with. Just call her Watchtower. Overwatch is just ridiculous. Okay, so moving on to the next characters. John Diggle, played by David Ramsey. We saw him a little bit. He had a video chat with Oliver. He's in the military. I'm curious what happened to his wife and his daughter. I totally forget. The one thing I will say about season 4 is I liked how Diggle's story ended because he was conflicted the whole season about his brother being a villain and trusting his brother over Oliver, and then having end of season 4 killing his brother, actually. And that was a really good storyline. Something I think season 4 got really good out of the few things they did good in season 4. But I'm interested to see how they bring Diggle and Thea back into the fold, because Thea, she's there. She's in Star City. She's working with Oliver, but she doesn't like putting on the speedy outfit. She says it's out of memory of Laurel, but she wants to lead a normal life. She told Detective Lance, my bad. Quentin's his first name. But Detective Lance, she told him she's enjoyed living that normal life. And when she puts on that outfit, she doesn't like it. So that's going to be a good story arc for her going forward. I didn't like Thea until season 3 when she actually became a badass and became speedy. That was good. I'm all about that. Since then, the character has grown, and I'm interested to see where they take her from there. Of course, the one question everyone is, and the surprise at the end of this first episode was Felicity. Turns out she's dating somebody else, cop that we saw. Can't remember his name because he was barely in the episode. But it looks like she has kind of moved on from Oliver, really. And I feel like they're going to do kind of that love triangle thing. I hope this cop guy isn't just a pit stop in the next version or the next reason that Oliver and Felicity get together. I don't know. I'm really curious. I want to know whatever happened to the Felicity, spinal, storyline. She was in that wheelchair for 2 episodes last season. What's his name? I'm going to forget his name. What is it? What is his name? Mr. Terrific. What's his name? Somebody tell me. Oh, I'm going to get this right. It's not it. Curtis. That's what it is. I remembered it. Curtis gave her that computer chip that healed her spine so she could walk again. And then it's really never come up since then. So I want to know what's going on with that. Okay. She's got this new guy. I think he's probably just a pit stop in the next part of the Oliver-Felicity relationship. However, I hope not. Honestly, I want to see Laurel come back. I want to see them continue that relationship, okay? That whole season 1 was about Oliver and Laurel until season 2. They switched over to Felicity and Oliver. For some reason, I don't know why, I want to see him get back to Laurel and Oliver. I mean, I much prefer it to be Sarah and Oliver because that was a great relationship in season 2, but I don't think they're going to do that considering Sarah is the star of another show. So let's bring back Laurel. Let's get Oliver back with Laurel. I'm okay with that. I'm completely fine with that. So let's get that going, guys. Okay? All right. Anything else? I guess that was a bit of the episode. Those are kind of the four main characters, really. You have Quentin Lance, which, he didn't really do too much. And then you have Curtis, who, after getting mugged in this episode, realizes he wants to be part of Arrow 2.0, so to speak. So we'll see him try to train as a superhero as well, get him to be Mr. Terrific, and we'll see if his outfit will match similar to what it is in the comic books. So overall, Arrow, Season 5, Episode 1, not bad. I don't want to say they're back on track, but again, I enjoyed the smallness of the episode. I enjoyed that it was just Green Arrow out there, okay? When you surrounded him with all these other characters and you filled their lair or their home base with all these people and everyone knowing his secret, I didn't like it. I want to keep it small. I want to get back to season 1, small team, him out there, kicking ass, grappling with his decisions to kill or not kill. Get back to the basics, really. You've gone so big. Last season, you had Damien Dark, where he was fighting this magical guy. Go back to season 1, okay? Leave the fantasy to the Flash and Legends Tomorrow, and get back to simple street level crime. Arrow could easily be a guy, much like the Netflix heroes of Marvel. He's got to fight crime lords, okay, and assassins. Don't have him fight metahumans or aliens or whatever. Just keep him simple. I think that's the key to this character. That's the key to keeping this show good. But again, that's my opinion. I want to know your guys. Let me know what you thought about the Flash and Arrow season premiere, what you want them to do, what you think they'll do, all that jazz. Okay, guys? So, all right. Well, I think that's going to be it for me because I have run over and it is just me here talking for over an hour. So if you're still with me, wow, I can't believe you'd still be with me at this point. But if you are, you obviously care about these shows or maybe even care what I think about these shows. So thank you for that. Hit me up on social media, the Facebook group, on Twitter. Let me know what you think. Also go on email, a Gmail account, the dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Let me know as well. Next week, guys, I'm going to be on a little different. Usually I like to do my Tuesday show with Lisa. And then I do maybe one other show as well. Schedules change a little bit next week. Next week, I'm probably going to be doing this on Wednesday. I got one of my good buddies flying in from Chicago. He's going to be here for a week. I'll have him on the show in 2 weeks. But next week, we'll get on Wednesday. And you can be sure that we are going to cover all the New York Comic Con footage. I'm seeing a lot of stuff come in. I just saw a breaking trailer for some Doctor Who stuff. So we'll have Lourdes back on the show to cover some of that. A new Underworld trailer just dropped. Bunch of other stuff I'm sure going to drop. Oh, Justice League behind the scenes. I'm looking at that. Justice League behind the scenes also came up. A lot of stuff. So be prepared next week, guys. We got a lot to cover, and we'll be sure to get it to you as well. So until then, you have not failed this city.